Hello there, thanks for joining us for today's edition of the show. I am super elated to be coming your way with yet another interesting episode of China Now. We have our scholars and thinkers sharing with us their brightest ideas about China and the rest of the world. So let's get started with China Current. And in today's edition, Kris will be giving us insights into Elon Musk's visit to China and all that ensued during his stay. And also, on the 23rd of May 2023, China appointed a new ambassador to the United States of America. And as part of today's China Current, Kris will walk us through his portfolio as well as the key role he has to play in safeguarding China's interest, given the growing challenges facing the bilateral relationship between the United States of America and China, as well as the growing tension between the two countries. So stick and stay with Kris for all the details.
China Current is a weekly news talk show from China to the world. We cover viral news about China every week and also give you the newest updates on China's cutting-edge technologies. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to China Currents. I'm Kris. Last week, Elon Musk just wrapped up his first visit to China in 3 years. Last time he was here in 2019, he showed a special love to Chinese food, xiaolongbao. He went to a crowded restaurant in Beijing to taste the buns. And Musk's visit to China this time comes as the country looks to portray a friendly environment for foreign businesses as geopolitical tension with the US rises and the strict COVID controls that have made the operating environment difficult have already been lifted. On May 30th, Musk met with China's Foreign Minister Qin Gang. He praised the Chinese people and China's achievements and stated that Tesla opposed decoupling and is willing to continue to expand its business in China. It shows that Musk does have a close relationship with top Chinese politicians. And finally, Elon Musk also visited Tesla's Shanghai Gigafactory on Thursday. The billionaire gave a speech to the staff and praised them. The Shanghai factory has been the key to the electric car maker's expansion into China. On Tesla's side, Musk's visit comes as the company faces heightened competition and a price war in China. Tesla has been adjusting the prices of its cars in China in a tougher macroeconomic environment in the world's second largest economy. Reuters described this trip to China as an event showered with praise, with elated netizens paying him compliments on social media all day long. But actually, Chinese netizens appear to be more sober. If we searched Musk's visit to China on Chinese video platform Bilibili, the most viewed video is one titled 5 Things to Notice During Musk's Visit. According to the video, despite huge pressure from home, Musk played along with Chinese officials in sending a message to the US government that decoupling narrative disseminated by the US government needs to be extinguished immediately. Why did Musk play along? Both the video and comment section largely came to one conclusion, that China's market is too lucrative to choose otherwise. The video also noted that Musk has a political prowess unrivaled by any other American businessman, which also explains why Tim Cook never made a big splash in China on his visit not too long ago. One will always be able to locate a few disciples of Elon Musk in a huge population such as that of China's. But it would be too naive to assume that the majority of Chinese people easily fell under the spell of an American businessman simply because he dares to visit China despite rising Sino-US tensions. On the back of Chinese people's minds, there's always this realization said best by wise words passed down from the ancients: the whole world comes for profit, and the whole world leaves when the profit dwindles. As the CEO of SpaceX, Musk also tweeted during his time in China, saying that the China space program is far more advanced than most people realized. And on the same day, China sends its first civilian astronauts to space as it launched the Shenzhou 16 mission to its space station for its second in-orbit crew rotation, marking another step forward for the country's ambitious space program. The 3 Shenzhou 16 astronauts blasted off in the desert of China's Gansu province at 9:31 in the morning and headed for the Tiangong space station orbiting the Earth. Traditionally, all astronauts would have been members of China's People's Liberation Army, usually among the best of the best from the Air Force. While this time, among the Shenzhou 16 crew, astronaut number 3 is Gui Haichao, a professor at China's prestigious aeronautics institution of Beihang University. He made the history by becoming the first ever Chinese civilian to be on a space flight. Gui, as a professor, still has 7 PhD students on campus now. According to his colleague at school, Gui was still texting them to check on his students' thesis a day before his final departure to space. And there's a popular joke that received hundreds of millions of views on Chinese social media. Number 3. Before you go into the space, you still have 7 students waiting to graduate, right? Not a big deal. We can hold group meeting in space. China is making landmarks not only in space, but also in the sky. China's first large homegrown passenger jet, C919, made its inaugural commercial flight on May 28th, flying from Shanghai to Beijing. After years of research and development, the launch of C919 is seen as a pivotal moment in Beijing's Made in China 2025 strategy, which aims to boost local manufacturing, including by reducing reliance on foreign airplanes for its aviation sector. With a range of over 5,000 kilometers, the C919 will take on the world's 2 major aircraft manufacturers, Airbus and Boeing. It will be a direct competitor to their A320 and B737 narrow-body jets, most commonly used for domestic and regional international flights. Now, the plane already received over 1,200 orders from domestic and around the world. But C919 was not the biggest news in the aviation industry in the last couple of weeks. Cathay Pacific, a Hong Kong airline, has already issued 4 statements since May 23rd, apologizing over the alleged discrimination against the mainland Chinese. The whole thing started when a passenger who flew from Chengdu to Hong Kong on Cathay Pacific posted a recording of flight attendants overheard in a galley complaining and laughing about the mainland Chinese passenger who didn't speak English or Cantonese. The passenger mistakenly asked for a carpet instead of a blanket, and this was what the flight attendant said.
I'm like, we cannot say blanket in English, you cannot have it. True. Carpet is on the floor. Feel free if you want.
If you cannot say blanket in English, you cannot have it. Since when did airlines start to host English lessons on plane? Just because people don't speak a certain language doesn't mean they don't have sophisticated thoughts or should be made fun of. And I thought the flight was from Chengdu to Hong Kong, from a Chinese city to another Chinese city. So what's the problem for passengers to speak Mandarin Chinese? The clip went viral on Chinese social media and drew much criticism towards Cathay Pacific. Netizens blamed the airline for looking down on mainland Chinese and questioned the company's code of conduct, since it was not the first time Cathay Pacific being accused of such behavior. It also prompted a broader discussion of people in Hong Kong being conditioned to look down upon their mainland counterparts. Well, these kind of behavior are not only discriminating the mainland Chinese for years, but the entire Chinese community in Asia as well. The news also went viral on YouTube, Twitter, and many other Western social media. Overseas Chinese in Singapore, Malaysia, and other Asian countries all rushed to the comment section and complained about their own experience of being treated unfairly. If you take a flight of Cathay Pacific, it will not only face the price discrimination of different class seats, but also a language discrimination. You will get 3 different levels of services and attitude from flight attendants based on the language you speak: English, Cantonese, or the West, Mandarin. If you remember, Stop Asian Hate is a popular slogan against racism and racial injustice targeting Asians. But it really hurts and infuriates people the most when the racism and hate comes from your own people. Sometimes it's hard for Chinese to be proud of their identity and celebrate it. A Taiwan taekwondo athlete waved the Chinese flag after winning a bronze medal at the Asia-Pacific Masters Game in South Korea. Chinese media first reported the man named Li Tongxian mounted the podium to receive a bronze medal. He brandished the Chinese flag to celebrate his win. You can see the flag he held was carefully folded. Many netizens assumed he probably had to carefully hide it in his luggage for him to take out at the podium. Reacting to this incident, the Sports Administration under Taiwan's Ministry of Education said the participants in APMG only represented themselves. While Chinese social media praised the athlete's courage to express his emotion towards his own identity, Li himself responded in a video afterward and said he was not afraid of the backlash he would face in Taiwan. What he feared was people in Taiwan might forget their own history and their own heritage. Next up, we have an update from the Chinese government. China appoints new ambassador to the United States of America after a 5-month vacancy. On May 23rd, Xie Feng was appointed as the new ambassador to the United States. The position has been vacant since last December, after former ambassador Qin Gang was promoted to foreign minister. As a senior diplomat, Ambassador Xie had been a vice minister of foreign affairs since 2021. He's recognized as a sophisticated U.S. specialist who spent the first 2 decades of his career working in North American and Oceanian branch of the foreign ministry and later in the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. Ambassador Xie also served as ambassador in Indonesia and commissioner to Hong Kong. Xie reportedly played a key role in arranging the Xi-Biden meeting in Bali last year, as well as in coordinating the release of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou. In his address after landing in New York, Xie pledged to enhance exchanges with the US and to safeguard China's interest as the bilateral relationship is facing difficult challenges. But the tension between the two countries have not been eased. On May 26th, US said Chinese jet conducted unnecessarily aggressive maneuver, intercepting US spy plane over South China Sea. According to the footage, the Chinese J-16 fighter cut directly in front of the nose of US RC-135 aircraft, forcing the US plane to fly through the wake turbulence of the intercepting aircraft. In video of the incident released by the US military, the turbulence is evident as it disturbs US aircraft along its flight path. The intercept is similar to another encounter between US and Chinese military aircraft last December. A Chinese Navy J-11 fighter jet intercepted another RC-135 rivet joint over the South China Sea in what the US called unsafe maneuver. The Chinese fighter came within 20 feet of the nose of the US spy plane, forcing a larger, heavier US aircraft to take evasive maneuvers. Thank you for watching this episode of China Currents. If you have any thoughts and comments on the show, please contact us at the email address below. I'm Kris. See you next week.
Well, that does it for China Currents. It's now time for our Tech Talk on Threshold with Lisa, where she will be bringing you some of the most cutting-edge technological innovations happening in China at the moment. And as part of today's edition, she'll be telling us about China's announcement to land astronauts on the moon before 2030. So over to you, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and this is Threshold in China. Today we are going to share some exciting tech innovations and announcements that happened in China last week. First, let's start with China's announcement to land astronauts on the moon before 2030. In just over a month, Chinese officials have twice expressed their confidence in this goal. In April 2022, the chief designer of China's lunar exploration program stated that before 2030, Chinese astronauts will surely leave their footprints on the moon. Well, to achieve this, China needs first to construct a basic lunar research station. This plan involves several key steps, including collecting lunar samples from the moon's far side in 2024, exploring resources in the lunar south pole in 2026, and establishing a basic international lunar research station by 2028. As China progresses towards its goal, NASA is also focused on moon exploration, with plans to send astronauts to the moon's south pole by the end of 2025. The goal is to explore permanently shadowed craters in this region, which are believed to be rich in frozen water. Are we seeing a competition or maybe some collaboration in finding answers to the mystery of the moon? While moving on, let's take a look at this flexible solar panel. A team of scientists from the University of Chinese Academy of Science in Beijing have developed a new technique of creating flexible solar cells from silicon wafers that can be folded and rolled like paper. Normally, the solar panels we see are rigid and heavy glass sheets. The team made the silicon solar cells flexible by dulling the sharp edges of the surface of the silicon wafers, which are prone to form cracks. This allows the wafer to bend without breaking. Then they added thin layers of different materials to the flexible wafers to make the actual solar cells. The cells can be rolled into a cylinder as small as 4 centimeters wide without losing power. Even after being bent, heated, and exposed to airflow, the cell retained most of their ability to generate electricity. These flexible solar cells have potential applications in photovoltaic integrated into buildings and wearable electronics as they are lightweight, shockproof, and self-powered. The scientists hope their technique will pave the way for large-scale production of flexible silicon solar cells, ultimately reducing solar energy's cost and a shift towards cleaner, more sustainable energy sources. Another breakthrough on the manufacturing side is that recently the Chinese Academy of Science has showcased 2 major innovations, the Xiangshan chip and the Ally operating system. As you may be aware of, computer chip designs have been expensive and hard to license. Global chip designers such as Intel have kept their blueprints a secret, so we have to buy manufactured chips directly or pay for a customized design. Developing open source chips is an effective way to address this issue. They are designed to be shared freely and modified by anyone whose design plans and source code are publicly available. And of course, this makes them more transparent, secure, and accessible. For China, developing open source chips is an effective way to address global chip supply chain security and offer technological benefits to the world. Now, moving on to the world of Minecraft. For those who are not familiar with the game, it is a sandbox game, and the player can explore and construct in an open world. And Minecraft presents AI agents with a fascinating puzzle known as the Moravic's paradox. Tasks that are challenging for humans, such as chess, are relatively simple for AI, whereas tasks typically easy for humans, like interacting with and making decisions in an open world environment like Minecraft, prove to be monumental challenges for AI. Chinese researchers from Tsinghua University and the Chinese Academy of Science have developed a new AI agent called Ghost in Minecraft, GITM. It has successfully overcome this paradox, achieving a significant breakthrough in a complex, lifelike setting. It is a generally capable agent which can tackle any task without specific training or instruction. It achieves this capacity using a large language model, which means it possesses an extensive understanding of words and common sense. GITM communicates with you through natural language and comprehends your desired outcomes. It also used text-based knowledge and memory to store and retrieve useful information such as recipes, locations, and goals. The researchers tested GITM on a popular task in Minecraft called Obtain Diamond, where the agent has to find and mine a diamond. This is a challenging task because diamonds are rare and deep on the ground, and the agent has to survive various dangers such as lava, monsters, and hunger. Previous reinforcement learning method only achieved a success rate of around 20%, meaning that they failed 4 out of 5 times. GITM, on the other hand, achieved a 67.5% success rate, which means it succeeded 2 out of 3 times. And not just diamonds, but everything else as well. It can craft tools, weapons, and armor, build shelters and farms, and even tame animals. The meaning of GITM goes beyond computer games, of course. It represents the latest version of generally capable agent that can explore and interact with the environment, though virtual, formulate strategies, then execute them all by themselves. Imagine that one day such GCA could enter our physical world through sensors and smart devices, autonomously solving real-world problems for us. More on the topic of learning, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has decided to establish a Category 1 institute for STEM education in Shanghai. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics. Graduates in STEM's field are in high demand globally, and many countries want to increase STEM enrollment to support key growth industries like medtech, digital services, mobility, and computer science. And according to the World Economic Forum 2016, China already has 4.7 million STEM graduates. They are essential for infrastructure development, technological progress, and economic growth. China has invested heavily in building its STEM workforce and becoming a leader in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, aerospace, and electronic vehicles. The new UNESCO Institute will help China share its STEM education experiences with other developing countries and hopefully make valuable contribution to strengthening STEM education worldwide. And that's all for today's Threshold. As always, please let us know if you like this new selection on science and technology in China, and we will do more in the future. Bye!
I think that in a way, the darkest moment has to be, it's probably the moment we're living now.
Multiple crises, the crisis of war, the crisis of climate catastrophe, the crisis of everyday violence that tears families and communities apart.
At some level, colonialism has this legacy in our world.
Hegemonic media from the West that try to tell us what is true and what is not.
Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction.
Clearly, the intelligence that we went to war on was inaccurate, wrong.
The military operation, the conflict, the war, depending where you stand politically and what media you are watching, you'll have a different word to describe.
It's very negative how the working class is perceived, and was worse.
The world is not what BBC or what mainstream media are presenting. It's much, much different. The world is changing.
All of us, as Africans, as Asians, as Latin Americans, have a responsibility to build a new world.
But even telling the truth by itself is insufficient. We need millions of people to take action.
You need to struggle to get the basic rights that you are supposed to have.
De contenidos, tenemos que ser capaces en el sur global de generar esas propias autopistas.
My name is Vijay Prashad. I'm a historian. I'm also a journalist.
Well, my name is Kris Pratt Jr. and I'm a journalist.
My name is Carlos Ron.
Manolo de los Santos.
Pacamile Ruby Majola.
Patricia Villegas Marín.
President of the Simón Bolívar Institute for Peace and Solidarity Amongst People.
I'm an anthropologist.
And I'm the national spokesperson for the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa.
I've been working in journalism for the past 20 years.
I want Breakthrough to be the place where you can find the truth about what's happening in the US, around the world too.
Now, what the brightest moment, or the most promising moment is, it may sound as a contradiction, but it's probably this moment right now.
中国的媒体在大部分情况底下都是面对西方说话，除了面对我们自己社会之外，就是面对西方说话，或者是辩白，或者是反击，而能够真正的用一种比较平等的态度、虚心的态度和南方世界打交道、交流的机会非常少。中国过去我们把自己叫做第三世界国家，那今天我们把自己也可以看成是整个全球南方的一部分，因为南方的意思并不完全是一个地理空间上的意思，全球南方是一个政治、经济和文化的运动，它是争取更加平等、公平的一个新的世界秩序的一个运动，反对垄断和霸权的运动。在这个意义上，无论中国经济发展到什么规模，中国依旧是这样的一场运动的一个有利的部分。美国提出中国不是发展中国家，一定程度上是从他自己的经济利益出发的，这是第一点。第二，一定程度上也是需要分化中国跟南方国家的关系，也在这个意义上，我们特别需要提出国际团结的问题。今天中国是第二大经济体。一方面，在中国国内面临着许多南方国家面临的共同的问题，比如说我们的发展依旧不均衡，我们同时还面临着全球性的共同挑战，比如生态。所以，在中国在这个意义上，也许需要承担更多的责任。40年来，我们 整个来说，我们的几代的知识者啊，年轻人基本上都是以向西方学习为主的。我们的训练，我们的知识，也都是在这个西方社会科学、人文学科和其他的这个知识的影响下产生出来的。所以，尽管我们说我们自己是南方的一部分，但另外一方面，我们对南方世界缺乏了解。我们很多整个来说，不是个别的，是整体的，缺少对于南方知识的了解。这个也并不只是中国的问题，整个殖民主义时代以来所产生的知识上的不平衡的和不平等的结构，依旧是今天我们面临的重大的挑战。所以在这个意义上，一方面需要青年一代更多的去学习和了解这个其他的非西方社会、南方社会的这个各种各样的经验和知识；另外一方面，也需要在我们的教育体系当中进行相当程度的改革，使得我们的学科和知识有一个新的变化。从年轻的时代，甚至从儿童时代开始，我们对全球的认知应该求得一个更加均衡的、更加丰富的、更加完整的一个全球的知识图景。
世界出现了巨大的变化，就是整体南方的崛起。比如说2022年第一次这个金砖国家的经济总值，就是经济的总量，已经超过了过去传统的所谓七国集团的经济总量。这是一个世界经济变化的一个巨大的标志。全球南方就是我们原来常用的用发展中国家或者用第三世界来评论的这些国家。这些国家呢，基本上都是从西方的殖民主义、帝国主义统治下走出来的。在最近些年，越来越感觉到他们的利益相关性很强，而且他们的共同诉求有非常非常多的相似性。所以呢，南方国家现在越来越多的要联合起来，特别是通过这个金砖国家的合作以后，金砖国家是一个特别明显的南合作，也就是都是不太发达的正在发展中间国家的合作。为什么现在越来越多的发展中国家选择向东看？所谓向东看，就是向中国看。他们愿意在中国的发展经历中间能够找到对他们的发展有益的经验。这个世界就是说，过去在媒体方面，西方国家基本上是控制着整个的媒体和所谓的国际舆论，所以那个时候你看美国可以为所欲为的没有什么道理的就对其他的国家发动攻击。这个事情发生在前南斯拉夫时期的科索沃，这个事情也发生在阿富汗，这个事情也发生在伊拉克。他可以随便的动用武力去推翻别人的政权，然后长期霸占别人的资源，那种所谓普世价值观的事情正在坍塌，而真的这个南方国家发生的事情，越来越使人们要想象这个世界为什么会不同，要想象这个过去如果按照这个西方人说的那些普世价值观去发展的话，为什么没有能发展起来？相反，当这个他们不太教条式的去信仰那些西方人宣传的一些模式的时候，事情反而有了很大的变化。过去20年里边最大的变化就是中国在世界上的地位的变化。过去中国虽然是一个政治大国，可是我们的能力非常有限，因为当时在70年代的时候，中国的经济总量在世界经济中间只占到了 1.8%， 非常非常小。但是呢，最近20年事情有了突飞猛进的进步，今天中国经济在世界经济占据的比重已经超过了 18%， 也就是说我们的经济在世界经济中间占的比重大概增长了10倍还多。这个呢就大大的改善了中国的形象、中国的地位，同时也让世界国家对中国刮目相看，同时也对中国的发展模式产生了浓厚的兴趣。同时呢，中国在一带一路的倡议推动下吧，中国也加大了对这些发展中国家的投资与援助。中国的投资与援助的增长 恰恰是这些年来整个其他的发展中国家发展迅速加快的一个重要的因素。这一切呢，就使得这个世界出现了一个百年未有之大变局。因为从这个时候起，未来发展中国家在世界经济中间占的比重会越来越重。因为你看世界经济增长的趋势，就可以发现这些发展中国家的增长趋势是不断的加快的。相反，这些我们过去习以为常的这些发达国家，他们却陷入了经济停滞，甚至陷入了某种程度的经济滞胀。而且如果他们愿意搞逆全球化，想与这种新兴经济体脱钩的话，那他们会陷入越来越严重的通货膨胀，根本没有出路。所以也可能10年之后，那么世界经济的版图就会出现巨大的变化。整个的南方国家，也就是整个的新兴经济体和发展中国家，在整个世界经济中间的比重和地位都会比现在要重要的多。那个时候，世界历史就会重新改写。
Let's now turn our attention to the Thinkers Forum, where Professor Wen Yi will be sharing his ideas on the true stages of industrial revolution. Stay tuned.
I think if you look at the history of all the Western countries which have successfully finished their industrialization or industrial revolution, there's a common pattern. I think there are at least 3 stages in terms of industrialization. The first stage, which is experienced by UK, by France, by Germany, by Japan, by the US, also by China, is what I call proto-industrialization, which is a primitive stage to pave the way to detonate the so-called industrial revolution itself. And this first stage looks very primitive, but is very crucial. And many nations, they are too ambitious. They try to skip this stage and jump directly into manufacturing or modern manufacturing system. I think that's normally lead to failure. And if this stage can be accomplished successfully, then you will be able to start the second stage, which is the first industrial revolution. By first industrial revolution, I mean industrializing process featuring mass production of light industrial goods, mostly directly for consumers, such as textiles, furniture, shoes. And if this stage is accomplished successfully, then a nation can start the second industrial revolution, which I also call it heavy industrial revolution. So this stage features mass production of heavy industrial goods, including steel, concrete, coal, and machines, machine tools. Lots of things can be mass produced, even like highways, railroad, engines, electricity, power plants. So once a nation finish its heavy industrial revolution, then a nation is ready to enter the so-called welfare state. In a welfare state, the productivity of the nation is so high such that it can afford giving workers lots of welfare benefits, including social safety nets, free education, free health care, and also political benefit. Welfare state is the last stage. If they fail to follow that pattern, normally their industrializing process is incomplete or will fail. Consequences will be several. Number one, the country either could not start industrialization, just like many African countries. They all rush to build heavy industries, and turns out these industries could not be supported by big enough market. And their goods are not competitive in the international market, and they bear huge public debt or financial burdens. Or like Latin American countries, because they have rich natural endowment, but even in this case, their heavy industrial goods would not be competitive in the international market, would have no big enough domestic market to support these heavy industrial goods. Because in order for those heavy industrial goods to be profitable, it has to be mass produced. And because the fixed investment is so high, the market size has to be so large, much larger than light industrial goods. They did not have such a deep and large enough domestic market, and they rush into heavy industrialization. Then therefore they run into deficit problems, financial problems. So basically the reason China so far has been very successful in terms of industrialization is that China has followed the right path of industrialization. So China started its industrialization effort reform by developing the so-called township village enterprises. And of course, in order to kickstart this so-called proto-industrialization, you still need some basic state capacity, which was built before the reform era. So that's after the establishment of the People's Republic of China. Because even with the proto-industrialization, you still need a sort of a unified market, domestic market, to allow the goods produced by small firms to be able to reach nationwide. So you need some basic infrastructure to reduce a lot of so-called market transactions across different regions in the same country. So therefore you need the proto-industrialization to prepare that process and ferment the market. So China spent the first 10 years to finish proto-industrialization and kick-started the first industrial revolution, which is mass production of textile and other light consumer goods. And that process automatically built the market, which is large and deep enough to support heavy industrialization. Because in order to transport goods, you need a very advanced highway system, railroad system. But a highway system and railroad system cannot be built in the early 80s because China did not have the fund or the national saving necessary to support that infrastructure, also did not have the demand. So therefore you have to wait until China finish the proto-industrialization and the first industrial revolution. Then you can kickstart the second industrial revolution, which is to mass produce all the heavy industrial goods, including machineries. And that's why China now is the workshop of the world, not just in terms of light consumer goods, but also in terms of machineries. And therefore, this level of capacity enabled China to start modernization of all the agricultural sector. So this is the first key. China has followed the right industrial path by relying on correct industrial policy. And the second important key is that it is precisely based on this manufacturing base China is able to move to the frontier of innovation. Because the knowledge of technology innovation does not come from university, come from the firms, come from the manufacturing sector, learning by doing. And only based on manufacturing in the government or the state has the resources and has a demand for fundamental science research and therefore have money to build universities. The same happened in Europe, the same happened in the United States. In the entire 19th century in the US was busy with catching up Europe by building their manufacturing capacity. There was not many good universities at that time. So only after the US became the center or the powerhouse of manufacturing, then the US started to build very good universities to have money to support basic research and have money to hire scholars from around the world. Now this process is happening in China. So therefore, if you follow the right path of industrialization, and if you understand the basic logic, there's no reason to be pessimistic about China's ability to innovate in the future, even including basic science. And the third aspect for China's success is a stable political environment for people to conduct a business and to produce goods. Therefore, you need a centralized political power to be able to not only maintain social order, but also to provide public goods, to build a law-abiding system. In Europe, the so-called rule of law was built in the process of industrialization in order to protect the fruits of industrialization. But in order to do this, you must have a capable government, central government, which has enough state capacity to do this. So therefore, having a stable political environment is very important. And the same applies to any European countries in the history. So European countries became industrialized in the 18th, 19th, or early 20th century was not because of democracy. That's the consequence of industrialization. It was not the precondition for industrialization. And most European countries finished or kick-started their industrialization process under monarchy system. Okay, so therefore, by prescribing democracy to developing countries as the prerequisite for economic development is totally wrong. It's very misleading.
This brings us to the end of today's edition of China Now. I hope that you're gradually becoming more open to a different world, a different culture, and a different way of thinking. Don't forget to send in your comments, thoughts, feedback, and suggestions through the email provided below. My name is Makiza Micheline Latifa, and I want to say thank you for making time to watch us. See you same time next week.